Any ship is built for the purpose of transport, be it transport of people or merchandise, for leisure or commerce. The sole purpose of a ship is transport. And when it comes to ships, size matters a lot. The larger a ship gets, its freight volume increases exponentially. This is what the carrack was built for, to be able to transport huge volumes of spice from Southeast Asia to Europe. As the Portuguese traveled along the coast of Africa in search of trade opportunities and a sea route to India, they made great strides in ship technology. The process of mapping the African coastline first led to the development of the caravel, which I covered in a former video. The caravel was developed based on the Arab dhow and was a nimble ship with a lateen sail, giving it good abilities to tack and beat into the wind. The caravel opened up the oceans and had excellent maneuverability. It had one big drawback, however. It was not that big. When you go through all the trouble of going all the way to India around Africa, you want to be able to bring a lot of spice back home again. So a ship with a much larger cargo hold was needed. Furthermore, the trip to India was long and very dangerous. So, significant armament and crew was also needed to fend off pirates and local rulers. The carrack, also called nau in Portuguese, had the qualities needed for this. It was a huge ship for its time. It had 3 or 4 masts, and the largest reached in excess of 1,000 tons in weight. This, in those days, literally made them floating fortresses capable of overpowering small kingdoms on their own. The carrack was caravel built like it was common for Mediterranean ships, but owed much of its design to the Hanseatic cock, which was clinker built. I covered the Hanseatic cock in an earlier video. The Hanseatic cock was made for large volume transport but lacked in maneuverability. The caravel had great maneuverability but lacked in transport volume. The carrack was the merger of these two ships, taking the oceanic maneuverability of the caravel and combining it with the transport capacity and high defendability of the cock. The carrack had a high aft castle at its rounded stern and a forecastle at the stern, making it a floating castle with excellent defendability. The carrack was also one of the first ships with combined rigging. It was square rigged on the foremast and mainmast for more power, and a lateen sail on the mizzenmast to gain the extra maneuverability from the caravel. This made the carrack and the later galleon the predecessors of the combined riggings that would dominate through the age of sails. This basic design would be the signature of the age of exploration. Indeed, the most famous carrack is probably Santa Maria, which brought Christopher Columbus across the Atlantic to America along with the 2 caravels, Nina and Pinta. The small fleet of Columbus thus was an image of the great strides in shipbuilding made by the Iberians. The large hull of the carrack meant that it also had excellent stability in rough weather, giving it the ability to venture far into the remoter areas of the oceans, and just as important, consistently repeating the journey. Just like with the caravel, without the carrack there would not have been an age of exploration or an age of sail. These two Portuguese ships simply made all the difference in making the oceans accessible for long-distance commerce. The caravel brought the maneuverability, and the carrack brought the scale and defendability. It is important to remember that the age of exploration only happened because it was economically viable. It could, to a large extent, finance its own costs. It was about finding ways to bring goods to Europe more cost effectively. And this was only so because the carrack could bring the volumes to make the investment worthwhile. A ship can transport more across water than alternatives over land, but the ship is expensive, so it needs to be able to cover this. The size of the carrack meant that it could do exactly this. It could simply bring enough back to pay for itself, thus leading to an explosion in oceanic traffic that for the first time went around the world. This is the main legacy of the carrack. It simply was the foundation of global maritime trade and transport, laying the first stone of what we know today. The carrack stayed in service long, but was gradually superseded by the galleons, which were a design improvement and usually heavily armed. Thus the carrack was slowly replaced, but long remained as a large cargo vessel. No galleon ever reached the size of the largest carracks.